Rituraj, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yes, fine.
Yeah,
Yes, you're audible. You're audible. Rituraj, sir has joined. Shivam sir, am I audible to you?
yes, sir.
Yes, hi.
Yes.
Okay, so should I start?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
2 minutes remain. 2 minutes. Just wait for
Okay.
you schedule.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Really, it's very happy to meet you here, sir, after a short break.
Likewise, very happy.
Principal ma'am.
Yes. Hello, Shivam. How are you?
Very good, madam. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
So
And
good to see you.
really happy to see you, as Kumar sir said.
Likewise. I wish this could be physical, but it was not possible. I have a very hectic schedule this week. So sir insisted, and therefore we have managed it online. Let's see how it goes.
Okay. Eventually online.
So Rituraj, can we start?
Okay. A very good evening to all of you. I, Raj, student of BLLB fifth year, would like to welcome you all on behalf of Dr.D.Y. Patil Law College, Pune, under the guidance of our chairman, Mr. P.D. Patil sir, Principal Ujjwala Sidle ma'am, and other faculty members. Firstly, I would like to thank and appreciate the efforts of Board of Student Development Committee of Pune University under the guidance of Assistant Professor Vanita Mahal, Event Coordinator Mr. S.S. Gopakumar, and Mr. Preeti Pawar for organizing this session. So today's lecture is on innovation and startup ideas in the current scenario. Our country is moving forward with the aim of our Prime Minister, that is Startup India. So before going forward, I would request our principal ma'am to share her view and to say something about on this topic. Hello. Hello. Hello, am I audible? Yes, sir.
Okay, you can proceed.
Okay, for today's so today we have young and dynamic leader, legal professionals, Mr. Subham Jan Takaria as our resource person. Mr. Jan has graduated from GLC Mumbai and has won overall Best Student Award, that is Yaswant Dalal Cup, and Nivedita Nathani Memorial Award for leadership and academic excellence. Mr. Jan is a visiting professor of law at Government Law College, Mumbai, and associated with Public Concern for Governance Trust, that is PCGT Mumbai. I personally know Mr. Jan from last 4 years when I was also associated with PCGT, and I saw he have delivered so many lectures on various colleges across India as well as on international platforms like EDX. He have also guided to so many young talents in setting their career. I would like to welcome Mr. Jan and would request him to share his valuable experience, ideas, and knowledge with us. Thank you, Mr. Jan, for being here. Please go on.
Thank you, Raj. Over to sir.
Thank you so much. Is my voice clear to everybody?
Yes, 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 your voice is clear.
Okay, great. So this is a great topic. We are talking about startups. And I was very happy when I received the invitation from respected Professor Dr. S.S. Gopakumar. And he said that this is the topic that we want to organize the talk on. And I think this is really interesting because you must realize that the university and the college has taken an effort to discuss this topic with all of you. So I think this is, something which is a very, very crucial for you. And it is also something which is not otherwise taught in college, because startups is not something which is usually discussed as a part of your course curriculum. So we will try to see, and how I have divided my talk is as follows, and I will appreciate, if it is interactive. So if you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat box and I would like to address them then and there. So the first thing will be a preliminary overview that I will be giving you about startups. I will then talk about why do we require startups as such. I will then give a global perspective, global overview to legal tech startups all across the world. See, because in India, if you compare it with countries like USA or Canada, we don't have as many law startups as you would have in these countries. We will then talk about the position of startups in India. We will then talk about the different areas in which there could be startups. We will look at one case study, which is an online dispute resolution platform. We will then talk about different emerging opportunities. What are the areas in which you can work on startups. And lastly, we will look at certain gaps, right? Certain policy gaps, what can improve really to develop the culture of startups in India. So that is what we are going to look at. So at the outset, I would like to extend my thanks to our respected principal madam, Dr. Ujjwala Shinde, because she has been extremely supportive since the beginning. I have a long association with the college. Previously also, I have physically delivered sessions and guest lectures in the college. I remember during COVID also, there was a series of constitution law talks, lectures, which were organized as revision for certain students. And that was also a great experience. So this is a, so let us start now with the first part, that is certain preliminary facts. See, in India, we have 650 plus law startups, more than 650, right? And India is second, it ranks second in terms of legal tech startups in the world. So we are only behind United States of America, which has the first rank, and USA has more than 2,500 startups. Our legal service market size is only 1.3 billion US dollars. Okay, so if you compare it with USA, what is their market size for legal services? It is $437 billion, and ours is $1 billion. Voice is not clear. My voice is not clear. Is it?
Audible. You're audible. Very clear.
Okay, fine. So our, if you compare it with US, we are only 1% of what they are. That is $437 billion. And we are only $1.3 billion when we look at the legal services market size. Now, in India, there haven't been any notable exits so far. So basically, whichever startups have emerged in India, they are continuing till today. And it is not that they have seen an exit. So that is also a very notable part. And what are the categories in which we have startups? There are different categories. So we have legal service delivery, number one. We have process efficiency. We have access to legal discourse, and we have do-it-yourself startups as well. So there are different ranges of services, which I will be explaining further, in which we have seen various startups. Now, there are certain new fields also that we have. Can you give an example of any new field in which we have seen startups in the past? You can put your answer in the chat. Any new fields in which you have seen startups, and if you can give examples also. You can put your answer in the chat. So I'm looking at the chats. If you can respond and think of any new startup in a new field. Artificial intelligence, Manisha, that's a very good example. Fantasy gaming, but fantasy gaming, you will not link it with a law startup. But yes, fantasy gaming definitely is a big, market. Nazara, if you remember that IPO, tech IPO, which was launched last year, was based on gaming only. Julie. Yes. Insurance policy startups, correct, Kashyap. We have a lot of ODR startups also, online dispute resolution startups. Digit, correct, Kashyap Tripathi, that's absolutely right. Right, so we have a range of startups. So it's not that we don't have startups, it's just that they're not that well known, right? Now, why do we need startups at the first place? Okay, why is it that we require startups in law, specifically in the legal field? Can you think of a reason? Why do we require startups as such? So I hope the picture is very clear to you. Firstly, we rank second. Still, our market is only 1% of what the largest market is, that is USA. We are only $1 billion, USA $430 plus billion, right? And we have startups which are not that well known, but we have not seen any notable exit also. So that was the second point. Third point is different emerging fields, which we will also talk about, like artificial intelligence, online dispute resolution, succession, etc. research analysis. So that is also, something which we will discuss. But why do we require startups at the first place? Because that is the whole purpose of this talk. Why startups? And specifically in the field of law. What do you think? What will be the advantage of having a startup? I'm waiting for your responses. What will be the advantage of having a startup? Okay, I think people are still thinking. So that's get ahead with job seeking and can be a great start for a major chunk together. Yes, Kashyap. SS says to increase the market share and to reach a larger customer base. That is also true. See, if you look at the pending cases, today in the Supreme Court, the pending cases are more than 70,000. More than 70,000 cases are pending in the Supreme Court. If you look at the overall judicial pendency in India, that is around 5 crores. Imagine 5 crore cases are pending all across the courts in India, which is a huge number. And do you know that our per capita spending on legal aid is how much? Can anyone tell me what is our per capita spending on legal aid? You can take a rough guess also. How much do we spend on legal aid per capita? Mahima Sadabat, you're right. Accessibility, correct. If anyone has worked in the legal aid cell, or otherwise for legal aid, can you tell me what is the per capita legal aid spending in India? It is 1 rupees. Per capita spending on legal aid in India is 1 rupees. In fact, less than that. In fact, it is less than that. It's not even exact 1, right? There is 1 lawyer per 1,000 citizens. There is 1 lawyer per 1,000 citizens. So this is the gap. This is the ratio, right? So there is a, yes, Prajakta, thank you for giving the exact figure. So this is a huge market, right? And we have to do a lot of compliances also. So looking at all of this, we see that there is a lot of scope of improvement in the existing legal structures, right? So if you look at the legal tech patents, for example, which were filed in India, legal tech patents, which were registered in India, patent is one of the intellectual property rights. I hope you would know that. That was 1,369 in 2019. Okay, in the year 2019, we had 1,369 patents. Of course, when COVID happened, but this is the highest at that time. 1,369 legal tech patents being filed in India. We have more than 50,000 cases settled through mediation. Why am I telling all these facts to you? Because later on you will know that some of these are actually settled by legal startups, like online dispute resolution platforms. So also we are now the 5th largest economy of the world. And it is very much possible that our legal services market will grow at the rate of 4.3% every year, right? That is the expected growth. Of course, it can be more or less also, just as I think day before yesterday or a few days, we had our GDP data. So what we were expecting, it was point something less than that. So that growth can vary, but normal rate, if you see 2022 to 2023, by which our Indian legal services have grown, that is 4.3%. So you can say that therefore there is a lot of scope for startups, and looking at our existing structures and judicial pendency and the scope of startups are the right fit for India. Right? Are you understanding what I'm saying? Because I'm sorry, I didn't have time to prepare any PowerPoint presentation. So I'm really sorry about it. But I mean, I hope my voice is clear enough for you to understand. If there's any question or any point that you're not understanding, you can mention it in the chat. I will repeat it once more for you. So if you're understanding, you can just type a yes in the chat, and then I will know and I will proceed further. If there are any questions, you can please, type it in the chat. Okay. Thank you, Satyam, Suraj, Rajata. Manisha is saying a startup lawyer can help an entity from outside, including with incorporation negotiation. Absolutely. Compliance. Absolutely, Manisha. I agree with you. Thank you, Maina. Okay, so now we will proceed further. We will look at the global overview. Right? So globally, if you look at the sector, right, over the last 5 years, now I'm going to talk about the last 5 years, right, up to 2022. So 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 ka data we don't have right now. So these are the last 5 years which we are considering. And over the last 5 years, I'm going to talk about the global, overview. So over the last 5 years, USA and UK have taken a lead in terms of the number of startups. But apart from USA and UK, only 2 countries have unicorn startups. Do you know what is a unicorn? I'm not talking about that mythological, reference of the animal. No. What is a unicorn? When we talk about a startup, how will you define a unicorn? Yes, the valuation should be 1 billion. Correct, Sagar. So have we had unicorns in India? Have we had any unicorns in startups in India? Yes, many of them. Many of them. We have had unicorns, several unicorns, but they are not in the legal sector. Yes, so we have had various unicorns, like, yes, we have had various unicorns. If you see all the IPOs 2021 which were launched, they were all unicorn IPOs. And in fact, this statement was mentioned by the parliament also, by the Honorable Prime Minister in the parliament, that we have had so many unicorns, that is IPOs with 1 billion valuation, but not a single IPO of legal tech sector or law in general, which has achieved that valuation of $1 billion. So this is the gap. Actually, not in any country, apart from USA, as I said, only Canada and Singapore. Apart from USA, UK, USA, only Canada and Singapore have, achieved that kind of number. So we have therefore a huge scope, of developing our startup base to achieve that kind of valuation of, let's say, a $1 billion valuation. So we haven't had unicorn, but of course, we have, in terms of the number, we are right behind USA. But in terms of the valuation, the money part, we are far, far behind. So we are far, far behind. So I think that is where also a certain amount of awareness is required. Right? So look at the number of startups, for example, number of startups. Now I'm giving you the 5-year data. In USA, it was more than 2,500 startups over the last 5 years, right? In India, it was 676. In UK, it was 583. And in Canada, it was 321, right? And if you look at the market size now, so you can see USA, in terms of the number of startups, USA is first, then India, then UK, then Canada. This is the list. But in terms of the market size, USA ranks first, then comes UK, $37 billion. So USA is 437, then UK is 37. So there's a 400 billion gap, but that's also a huge gap. But we are at 1 billion only. So USA is 37 times ahead of us. So UK. USA is 437 billion. UK is 37 billion. We are at 1.3 billion. Right? And Canada is at 16 billion. So Canada is also far, far ahead in this, in terms of the market size of legal startups. Right, so this is a general global picture. Obviously, in USA, the IPOs are highly valued, and the people there are also much aware. They invest directly into securities. In India, that culture is now slowly developing, where people are becoming more and more aware about investment opportunities in startups. So we are yet to reach that stage, but at least in terms of the number, the response has been very encouraging. So let us look at the Indian scenario now. So this was the global scenario. Now, if you talk about India specifically, we have had 650 plus startups, 650 plus startups we have had, and over 55 million US dollars have been invested in India as an emerging market. So there are 20 categories of solutions that these legal startups are providing. There are 3 unique groups: citizen, legal service providers, and judiciary. So that means you are providing solutions directly to citizens, right? You may provide solution as a legal service provider. Maybe you are advising the law firms or lawyers, or you can directly assist the judiciary in terms of the dispute resolution mechanism or outside court resolution of disputes also, right? Now, this is not something new. I found data of actually, these resources. I have read around 7 to 8 papers on this before coming up with this presentation. So all these papers, the research paper links and the resources I will share with Sir, so that later he can email it to all of you. They are really nice papers. So if you are interested to read about this further and get deep dive into the facts and figures which I'm stating, you can read any of these papers. So the first one that mentioned was that in India we have had startups since 1980s. Okay, so since 1980s we have had startup. 1980 to 1999 we had technology companies like AIR Infotech. I don't know if you've heard of it. AIR Infotech was a tech company which was derived at legal research. So this was in 1999. And so we have had, enlisted 335 startups till date. So this is something not new, but obviously it is more and more prevalent now. So at that time, as compared to now, we didn't have so many startups, but the number has grown over the period of years. We had over 40 legal startups founded. 2014 to 15 is considered as a breakthrough, right? This figure of 40 startups in 2014 to 15 was surpassed. Can you guess which year? The COVID year, 2020. So 2020, we had 50 startups. So that, during COVID, we had the maximum number of startups, because people realized that access to technology is an extremely important step to continue with in the legal profession. So 2014-15, we had 40 startups. That was the highest till then. But now in the year 2020, we have had over 50 startups. So that is the highest number now till date, right? Now we will look at what is the product range actually. So when we talk about startup, what are the kind of services and products are they offering, these recent startups, and what are the avenues open? Okay, so first I told you about is a field which is very prevalent in USA also and in India also. And that field, that area or that landscape of startup is called legal service delivery. Okay, I'm sure legal service delivery, all of you are familiar with it. Okay, if you talk about legal service delivery, it will include things like research, analytics, okay, case management. This is all a part of legal service delivery. Court management, management of evidence. Okay, so this is one broad area, legal service delivery. Second will be access to legal resources. Access to legal resources, right? So access to legal resources could mean knowledge platforms, right? Or online dispute resolution platforms. So access to these platforms, which are legal resources, is the second important field. Third important field is process efficiency. See, legal process is supposed to be, we all know that there is a lot of documentation. There can be a lot of complexity also in the legal process. So to simplify this also, there have been several startups. For example, due diligence is one area where there have been a lot of startups. Contract management, compliance management, incorporation management, Document management. There have been several startups. I will give you examples also later. And the fourth avenue of startups has been DIY. DIY. Can anyone tell me the full form of DIY? DIY. DIY tools.
Yourself.
Yes, do it yourself. Do it yourself. Okay. So DIY startups. Now, do it yourself means what? It will include startups which help you in online RTI filing, digital signatures, document drafting, e-signing, e-verification. All these kind of startups fall under the category of do it yourself. So these are the various avenues and industries which are available. So I will give you some examples now. If you want, you can, read more about them and also, write them down as examples if you feel like. So for example, for case management, we have MyPleader, Pleader, MyPleader. For practice management, there is Theo, THEO. These are all Indian startups, right? For document management, you have Doofy, DOOFY, right? For compliance management, you have Lawrbit, LAWRBIT. For incorporation management, you have Vakil CA, VAKIL Vakil CA. CA is for chartered accountant, but they have not written the full form, right? Do it yourself tools that we were speaking about, like online RTI filing, do it yourself. There is a startup called RTI Wala. Just a chai wala, like RTI Wala, right? And for e-registration, there is a startup called Legal Desk. Okay. Now, many of you may have heard of them. Many of you may have not heard of them, which is absolutely fine. Because as I said, the number is high, but the awareness is low. So we don't know about these startups, but that doesn't mean that we are not into startups in India. In fact, as I told you, we are the second largest. But we don't know about many of these e-tech, e-solution and startup companies because the reason is we don't use them, right? For access to legal resources, you may have, heard of iPleaders. You may have heard of LawPlead, right? iPleaders, LawPlead, they're quite famous. For online dispute resolution, you may have heard of a platform called SAMA, SAMA. This is for online ODR. They resolve cases and appoint arbitrators online. SAMA. So this is also a startup, right? So I mean, I can give you examples, so many more, but the point is that for each one of these areas and landscapes that I explained to you, there could be a startup. Do you know any other startups of any field? If you can mention it in the chat, please, I'm sure others will also be happy to know. And have you heard of any of these startups which I spoke of right now? If you have heard of any of those startups, you can mention it, that I've heard of this and I've heard of this, right? Okay, Manisha says yes. So some, I'm sure you would have heard of some of these startups, but I don't think you will know all of them. But therefore, I said you can write down the names and read, more about them. RTI Wala, you have heard, Manisha. Okay, yes. Yes, sir, about Legal Desk. Okay, Aditya has heard about Legal Desk. Great. So that means you are using these tools, right? Are you using Chat GPT? That is not legal startup, but it's related to AI. That is why I'm asking. Do you use it at all? Do you use it at all, Chat GPT? Don't use it for your assignments, okay? So I'm saying that because it doesn't give the correct answer, especially for legal queries. I don't think it can comprehend India's laws. It is not that good. Basic questions it will answer correctly, but not the I don't think it can answer complex legal questions where interpretation is required that you will have to do yourself by attending lectures and by reading good textbooks. Right? So now I will be talking about one case study, and this is one of the areas of startups, which is ODR, online dispute resolution. Okay, so online dispute resolution is becoming a very popular choice for businesses and industries across India. The reason is that, you know, the massive pendency I just told you, there are all across courts, we have around 5 crore cases pending. So we need mechanisms like ADR and ODR. ADR is alternative dispute resolution, and ODR is an extension of ADR because this is alternative dispute resolution but online. So online dispute resolution. In fact, NITI Aayog constituted a committee to create an effective implementation framework along with a comprehensive action plan for ODR in India. This committee saw representation from 6 major departments and ministries of Government of India. And these recommendations, if you want to read, these are very recent, 2021 NITI Aayog report on startups. They consulted over 60 stakeholders, and it suggested for higher private sector participation and establishment of legal tech hubs in India. So these legal tech hubs are also important in improving ease of doing business, because we want to rank India higher and higher in the category of ease of doing business. So to boost this, ODR is supported by Ministry of Law and Justice. Ministry of Law and Justice itself is recognizing several startups which are aligned with ODR. So you're getting government support also, you know, for this. And one example, therefore, which I would like to give you is of a startup. I will just type the name in the chat, okay? Because I don't know if you will. Aditya, these are all cases. These are all cases which are fit for ADR. What sort of disputes? Disputes that can be referred to alternative dispute resolution. Obviously, you can't have criminal law cases or cases in REM or cases related to public matters. For example, election to public offices, matters related to probate, letters of administration, guardianship, custody of a child, unsound person. These kind of cases cannot be referred to ADR. But there are certain cases which are fit for ADR. There was a case law on this. If you have read this judgment, it is called Afcons Infrastructure Limited versus Cherian Varke Construction Company Limited. This is, I think this is the 2005 Supreme Court judgment, and it was delivered by Justice Y.K. Sabharwal, if I'm not wrong, Honorable Mr. Justice Y.K. Sabharwal. So this has distinguished what is fit, what is unfit. But normally, if you go beyond the AFCON's guidelines, several sorts of disputes will be fit for ADR. For example, consumer disputes. For example, contractual disputes. Disputes arising out of trade and commerce, disputes arising out of sole relationships like matrimonial disputes or partnership disputes, they are all fit for ADR. So they are also fit, therefore, for online dispute resolution. Aditya, I hope your question is answered. So now the startup that I was going to talk about is Presolve 360, PRESOLV 360. Okay, I put the name in the chat. So now, what about this startup? See, Presolve 360 was founded in 2017. It is an end-to-end online dispute resolution platform, nothing physical at all. It is enabled completely by technology with proprietary arbitration and mediation modules. The startup stands out because it is recognized. Imagine government recognizing a startup for online dispute resolution is really, it is really a great thing. It is really, I think my network fluctuated in the office today. There's some problem. So am I audible? I hope I'm audible. Okay, great. Aditya, is your question answered? If you have any further question, you can ask me. Okay, so this startup, Presolve 360, is recognized by the Ministry of Law and Justice, right? And this way, it is a very, it is the first, and in fact, right till now, the only dispute resolution startup which has been recognized by the government. So it also serves as an example of increasing confidence in ODR, because people doubt, if it is online, whether it will be successful or not. So there are doubts about it. And within the legal tech sector, it has received support from prominent incubators, as well as raised over $1 million worth funding. Million, not billion. If it had 1 billion, then it would be a unicorn. But 1 million is also $1 million also is a good figure for a law startup in India as of now. So this I found was really interesting, based on Niti Aayog's recommendations of 2021, and also the fact that this is recognized by the Ministry of Law and Justice. I was trying to look for other startups also which are government recognized, but I couldn't find any apart from this one. So I'm sure there would be many more, but this is what I found in the Niti Aayog report also. Right? Now I will be talking about what are the emerging opportunities. So I will be talking about what are the emerging opportunities in the startup area. Can you think of any areas which are emerging and where you can think? Now I want you all to think as entrepreneurs, okay? Wear the cap of an entrepreneur, and now based on what I have discussed with you, what is the kind of startup you would like to have? I want to see an answer in the chat. And then maybe I can give you some advice on that, which I don't know if it will be helpful or not. And then I will tell you certain emerging opportunities as well in the field of startup. Okay. IPR with AI, very good, Manisha. So IPR with artificial intelligence. Aditya says for mediation, particularly a startup for mediation. Great. Anybody else? SS, what is your full name? SS, can you tell me your full name, please? Divorce.com, like shadi.com. Okay. Surinder Sohal, I don't know. I'm sorry, Surinder Sohal. Okay, divorce.com. Not a bad idea, not a bad idea. I think you should get the registration done as soon as possible. Otherwise, anyone else will take this idea. Online divorce services, online legal document, door delivery like affidavit undertaking. So door-to-door delivery of these documents for which you have to run around in courts. Martial law, Satyam. Ayushman, I like your idea also. So Satyam says martial law. Okay, that's also interesting. Anybody else having a startup idea? I like a very interactive crowd. So this is great. Always a pleasure to deliver a talk at Dr.D.Y. Patil College of Law. So this is a great, range that you have given. Some of the emerging areas therefore include, number one will be succession management. Okay, succession is one of the, I would say, one of the toughest case to fight in any court. If there is a succession dispute, the chances are it will stay pending for at least 5 years minimum. It could go up to 10 years, 20, 30, 40 years also. Recently, Calcutta High Court disposed of some 70-year-old case. So succession, is a very big problem. 66% cases which are pending in civil courts are succession related, right? 66%, that's a huge figure. Okay, property disputes account for 66% of the pending cases in civil courts. So we need startups which can digitize, correct, Sheila, just to take what you have suggested, revenue records, which can digitize land records, which can unlock opportunities for legal tech enabled succession management. So that is one area I feel like where, I feel if there is a startup, it to do very well. Then litigation financing. Do you know what is litigation financing? Is it valid in India? Firstly, is it legal in India to fund litigation? Is it valid? Is it allowed, legal to fund litigation? Like I give funding for someone else's matter. I finance someone else's matter. I give you money to fight a case. Is that allowed? Yes or no?
Yes, it is.
Anyone? Yes, sorry.
Yes, it is. In some states, yes, a third party can fund
Okay,
the
so
litigation.
third party financing is allowed, but still we have not been able to, gain that. See, our cost of litigation is about $300 billion. $300 billion is the overall cost of litigation, which is 0.3% of India's whole GDP. Right? So if ODR gains more and more traction, then litigation financing can be done. It can be achieved. Second is, another area where we can work more towards startups is due diligence. See, due diligence is related to, for example, mergers and acquisitions. You would know that we have a concept of mergers and acquisitions, and there are specific teams also now in different law firms. Our M&A deals have crossed $75 million, and deals were of more than $75 million. So we have in-depth due diligence, which is conducted traditionally. It is a manual process, right? It is a very extensive manual process. And if we digitize this process, if we digitize and use some AI in this process, then due diligence could also become very easy, which is right now manual and very, very hectic and cumbersome. Then another area which I already told you is online dispute resolution. One platform I've already given example was that Resolve 360. Another one platform is SAMA, S-A-M-A. Then there's one more platform, Juptice, Juptice. So these are some ODR platforms that we have, but we still need a lot more ODR platforms, especially enabled to combat the pendency of cases, and that those ADR platforms should get court recognition also. For example, you would have studied Section 89 CPC. Now, in Section 89 CPC, the civil court can refer the matter for resolution outside the court. But as of now, courts do not refer it for ODR. So according to me, courts should also be sensitized towards referring those matters for online dispute resolution. For example, if they're referring the matter to mediation, they can send it for online mediation. But so far that practice is not there. They will normally send it for a physical in-person mediation, High Court Annex Mediation Center, or private mediation. So that is there. Then for court management, I think court records need to be completely digitized. The management of files in the courts and the way the records are obtained is really outdated. It is very outdated, and therefore sometimes it is very difficult to keep a track also of the matters. I'm not talking about myself, I'm saying court clerks also are not able to keep a track of the matters. So efficient court management is required. So in some way, the judiciary also has to adopt certain methods which will help them to combat the mismanagement of the files and the records, and to streamline the whole process. And why not, maybe tomorrow there will be a startup for this also, which will be recognized, but we have to wait for that, because if that comes, it will extremely help in transparency and the maintenance of records, which as of now is done completely physically. Then translation and transcription. Okay, you would have recently seen that the Supreme Court has now started transcribing. Live transcription is available for hearings, right? Has anyone of you heard of it? No, Sheila, it says e-filing process, but do you know that e-filing is what? E-filing is a myth. So e-filing you have to take, but you have to scan that copy. So physical copy would still go, no? So e-filing is the scanned copy will go, but it is of what? It is of your physical copy, which you have already taken a printout. So at least in the, so it is double work actually, right? It is double work actually. So legal transcription, legal transcription, legal, if you go for hearings, for example, evidence, if you go for an international matter outside India, every word that you say, you can see on the screen. But in India, we don't have that system, at least as of yet. And Supreme Court has recently started. But even for arbitration, you will have a physical scribe. In the court also, one scribe will sit next to the judge who will type everything, every word that is said by the witness. And similarly, in arbitrations also, you will have a steno. He's called a stenographer. And he will sit, he will type every word. So if the lawyer is asking a question, cross-examination is going on. Lawyer is asking a question, the witness is responding. The question and answer word by word will have to be physically typed by a person. Why can't this process be streamlined? Why could there not be a startup which is specifically looking into transcription live? So, but Supreme Court has started it, which is a very welcome step. And I'm sure other courts and tribunals will also take a cue and follow from this. Okay, so these are some of the emerging opportunities according to me. And there is a need, I feel. I will be summing up my talk in the next 2-3 points. So what is preventing us from being the largest market? Why are we 100 times behind US? 100 more than that, in fact, because we are 1.3, they are 437, 400 times behind USA in terms of the market size. I think first big gap is we don't have innovation. We lack innovation. And I say this because we as students, lawyers, legal professionals, judges, we have a very established way of things, the conventional or the traditional way, the traditional model. And there is no strategic thinking really that goes in to make the practices sustainable in the long term. For example, whether it is e-filing, whether it is transcription, as I was mentioning to you. So the traditional mindset is really lacking. Second, I feel is there is no training at all in law schools about entrepreneurship. Okay, in fact, this is the first of its kind of, this kind of talk I have not delivered in the past also, and I have not seen being delivered anywhere else. So this is a great step, by your college, to create awareness about entrepreneurship in law and to develop the thinking cap where you can actually think about starting something on your own. So at least it's the first step, even if it is making you, like it's not helping you 100%, at least maybe 1%, 5%, maybe this thought goes in your head. So entrepreneurship in law school is not taught at all. And in India, imagine 70,000 graduates every year, right? So entrepreneurship courses should be conducted, such workshops should be conducted, such lectures, should be conducted so that students are aware about the startup legal ecosystem in India. And lastly, I think the curriculum of so Bar Council needs to think about this. Obviously, I'm a very small person to, suggest all this. But the curriculum should incorporate in some way reliance on information technology, reliance on artificial intelligence, reliance on software management, which are really the soft skills, that should be there. And that should be based on case studies again, how there are existing startups and how are they working. It should be based on that so that students are aware about the legal startups in the country. There are so many other opportunities. So these legal startups are restricted to law firms, service management, etc., etc. But if one wants to do, law gives you sky as the limit in career opportunities. You can, for example, start your own, you can start small, for example, with your own journal, with your own blog. Like Rituraj himself has started Burnished Law Journal. It is his own initiative, and that's also like a startup only, because he has worked on Burnished Law Journal and made it, a recognized journal all across India. You can think of starting your own blog. I mean, imagine websites like Law Octopus, iPleaders. What were they before? They were blogs only, and slowly they started gaining prominence. And today they are really big startups. So it is not necessary that you start big by being a unicorn. You can always start small and then later, become big. So whatever you start, whatever is your entrepreneurial idea, don't let anyone believe you otherwise. You go ahead with that, with what you believe in. And I'm sure if you do that, you will succeed. So I am very, very honored again, and I'm thankful to Principal Madam and Gopakumar sir for inviting me, and all the students for their amazing interaction and keeping it so interactive despite me not using any PowerPoint presentation. And yeah, so that's all that I would like to say. If there are any questions, I will answer, though I think I've already answered most of the questions that came in. But still, if there's anything else you would like to mention, you can mention now. Thank you, everybody.
Sir, before proceeding to formal vote of thanks, it was a wonderful session, sir. And this is a first session on startups we have organized, and you have made it a wonderful session, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And I always thankful for you to cooperate with us all the time. You are so, what we can say, that open-hearted in this contest. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Aishman, please.
Yes, sir. First of all, now I'm here to conclude this wonderful session workshop. And I would like to start with a thank you, Principal Ma'am, to organizing under her guidance, we have able to conducted these kind of workshop, which really inspire their students to do something with their life in this startup area, which is growing market in India nowadays. I would like to thank the Board of Student Development, Savitribai Phule University, for organizing these events. I would like to thank our sagacious faculties, Gopakumar sir and Preeti Pawar ma'am, for this guidance and organizing these events. Now, I will come to the main person, the guest of the movement, Advocate Shivam Jain sir. Thank you, sir. You have guided us, you have inspired us to do well in this startup, legal startup environment, which is growing in India. We like to thank you. We like to show you our gratitude for these inspirational facts that you have concluded in this event, in this workshop. Yeah. We would like to thank the students and the participants for listening, for participating in this event. Now, at last, I would like to thank every person who is present here and who make this event wonderful. Thank you.
Shivam sir, thanks a lot, sir. Once again, from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of college management and principal and all students, sir. It was a great session. We look forward.
Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.